Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, sir and friends. We are from Group 2. We'll present our review article. And before that, I will introduce my group members. The first is Jeni Natasya as the first presenter. The second is me, Sandra Anggraini Putri, as moderator and also second presenter. The third is Wahyuningsih as the next presenter, and Suci Mira Andani, the fourth presenter, Putri Wahyuni, the fifth presenter. And also we have two others members from group 1. The last week they cannot join the presentation before, so today they will be join with us in the presentation today. There are Hersa Yuria and also Imraatul Khairati. So I will start the read review article. The first is Jeni Natasya. Times is yours.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, I will read my review article task. The title is Adjective Clauses and Adverbial Clauses in the Secret Garden by Francis Hudson Burnett. Journal of English Language Teaching, Vol. 3, number 1, pages 39 to 46. Years, July 2020. Authors Apen Sumardi and Mas Hadi Said. Reviewer Jeni Natasya. Date October 23, 2021. Next. Introduction. A grammar related to a language structure and system which is made up of syntax and morphology in most cases. In writing English, when people use grammar in writing context such as books, article, and journal, it is critical. And a clause is a grammatical structure that includes both subject and predicate. And in the clause can be either be dependent or independent. Complex sentences are composed of adjectival and adverbial clauses. Adjective clause is a clause that acts to describe, modify a noun or of pronoun is known as adjective clause. It always dependent clause. And in the adjective clause, explain that this clause is used to describe a noun or pronoun. Adverbial clauses change the meaning of verb, but they also change the meaning of entire clauses. The second distinct feature is that they are adjunct, as they are often used as optional sentence element. They are usually being classified by their meaning. Next. This research aimed to analyze the adjective and adverbial clauses in The Secret Garden by Francis Hudson Burnett. The method, this research used descriptive qualitative research, and the writer does some steps to collect the data. The first is reading some books and other sources. Relevant to the adjective clause and adverbial clause, reading The Secret Garden by Francis Hudson Burnett periodically, identifying data which contain adjective clause and adverbial clause, putting them into the table of the research instrument, analyzing and describing the sentences based on the theory, interpreting the data, drawing conclusion, and the last, writing the final report. Finding and discussion. Many sentences with adjective clauses and adverbial clauses are included in the finding of this study. The first is adjectival clause. In Franz Hudson Burnett, The Secret Garden, the writer can conclude the fact collected the adjective clause are necessary is to divide it into two, relative pronoun and adjective relative adverb. Relative pronoun is 86% of the time, the largest percentage of relative pronoun is found when describing the main character or other character. And relative pronoun is also preferred to describe the things with adjective clause in relative pronouns such as a tree, a house, and other things. Meanwhile, the relative adverb appears in 14% in the novel. Relative adverbs show a lower percentage than the relative pronoun. Relative adverb, it goes most of the sentences containing the adjective clause do not describe the time or the place as well as the relative adverb should describe. And the second is adverbial clause in The Secret Garden by Francis. The writer concludes that the adverbial clauses which emerge in The Secret Garden are 63%, manner is 19%, the reason is 14%, and the condition is 2%, and concession is 2%. Time show the highest percentage among the other adverbial clauses, that is 63, because frequent use to the word when to define the adverbial clause temporal context. The second, the adverbial clause in manner is the second. In most cases, the adverbial clause appears when the author informs the character something while they are doing something. The third is the adverbial clause in a reason, which account for 14% of the overall. This occurs when the author presents story about character that explain how do the something in the novel. The word because appears the most. And the last is the adverbial clause in concession is the fourth. It contributes to percent because the author just say a few things that are conduct theory. Next. Conclusion. After the analysis had been done, the researcher concluded that in the novel The Secret Garden by Francis Hudson Burnett, it can be indeed conclude that there are 252 data in the kinds of the adjective clause and 245 data in the kinds of adverbial clause. Next. Critical reading. After I read this article, I can give an assessment that this article is good to be read by students who want to research about adjective and adverbial clause. It can be seen the abstract that they are quite good at describing the problem to solving the problem. In the introduction section, they are very long but this article also has some shortage. In the introduction section, they are very long in explaining too long several definitions. Then in the research method section, they explain the step. They want to include sentences that are included in the adjective clause and adverbial clause. But after I read the finding and discussion section, they only explain what percentage they got. The advantage after I reading this article that I more confined of no important grammar is in making novels so that the language can be accepted by reader, and they have to include several brains of the grammar as I'm reading now adverbial and adjective clauses. And this advantage that I got after reading this article is that I don't know the form of adverb, sentence, and adjective clause because the author didn't write down the sentences in the novel, so I wasn't satisfied after reading this article. So that's all about my review article. Back to moderator.
Thank you for Jenny. So I will continue to read the review article. Please, the title is The Analysis of Prepositional Phrase in Novel The Perfect Nanny, written by Leila Slimani. The journal is State Islamic University of Sunan Gunung Jati, Bandung. Volume 1, number 1, and pages 40 until 47. The year is 2019. The authors is Astri Tiara Manita, Ice Sariati, and also Yuyun Nurulain. Reviewer Sandra Anggraini Putri, and the date October 23, 2021. Next. Introduction. A word is an element of language whose arrangement consists of a collection of letters or units that have a meaning so that they can function to form sentences, phrases, and clauses. Furthermore, phrases are two or more words that do not contain the subject, verb, pairs needed to form a clause. Phrases can be very short or quite long. Certain phrases have special names based on the type of word that starts or sets the word. A preposition is a conjunction that shows the relationship between the noun that follows it and one of the basic elements of the sentence, such as subject, verb, object, or complement. A prepositional phrase is a phrase that consists of a preposition and a prepositional object. A prepositional phrase can be ended by a noun, pronoun, gerund, or clause that functions or act as the object of the preposition. The research questions or aims. First, what are the position of prepositional phrase of sentences found in novel The Perfect Nanny written by Leila Slimani? The second, what are the patterns of tree diagram for a prepositional phrase of sentences found in novel The Perfect Nanny written by Leila Slimani? The research method. The researchers use position of prepositional phrase theory by Frank 1972 and Theory of a Tree Diagram by Delahanty and Garvey 2010 to analyze the data. Findings and discussion. Position of prepositional phrase is a combination of two elements. They are preposition and phrase. Preposition are always followed by a noun or pronoun. It shows where a prepositional should be in a sentence. There are 6 data of prepositional phrases used in the novel The Perfect Nanny, written by Leila Slimani, which is divided into two functions, such as adjective functions and adverbial functions. First, at this hour, you are ashamed of your uselessness. The position of the prepositional phrase in the sentence is adverbial function, final position. Second, the broken body surrounded by toys was put inside a gray bag, which they zipped shut. The position of the prepositional phrase in the sentence is adverbial function mid position. 3. The toys were put in transparent bag and sell as evidence. The position of prepositional phrase is adverbial function. 4. When she went into the room where the children lay, she let out a scream from deep within the hull of she wolf. The position of the prepositional phrase in the sentence is adverbial function initial position. The 5. They stand on tiptoe, trying to make out what is happening behind the police cordon inside the ambulance as it sets off, sirens screaming. The position of the prepositional phrase in the sentence is adverbial function mid-position. The 6. They stand on tiptoe, trying to make out what is happening behind the police cordon inside the ambulance as it sets off, sirens screaming. The position of the prepositional phrase in the sentence is adverbial function mid-position. Next. The conclusion. Overall, it can be concluded that the position of the prepositional phrase, which is mostly used in the novel The Perfect Nanny, written by Leila Slimani, is the adverbial function of the prepositional phrase. This is because the adverbial function can modify the verbs, adverbs, and adjective found in novel. Meanwhile, the position of the adjective function of the prepositional phrase only change part of the noun head so that it is not as much as the adverbial function. Critical review. This journal discusses the analysis of prepositional phrase of sentences in novel The Perfect Nanny, written by Leila Slimani. The discussion is very clear and detailed because every sentence quoted from the novel is given an explanation of why and how the sentence can be classified according to their function, even though there are still some part of the sentence in the novel that have not been explained in detail because maybe the number of pages of the article will be allowed. The advantage of reading this journal is that readers can understand how to explain prepositional phrase in a sentence. For those who like to read novels are sometimes confused in reading sentences to determine prepositional phrases. You can read this article to complete it. And the disadvantage of reading this journal is that there is no special part of or chapter that contains the research method because this section is located in the abstract and there are only a few explanations, which can make the reader confused and feel incomplete when reading. So that's all from me, and the next presenter is Sri Wahyuningsih. Sri, time is yours.
Thank you, moderator, and I will continue the presentations and I will read my review. The title of article is a translation analysis of adjective phrase in I Am Number 4 novel by Pittacus Lord and its translations. The journal is Department of English Education, Muhammadiyah University of Surakarta. Volume and number is not explained by the author. The pages is 1 until 16. The year 2013. The authors Fakih Saifur Rahim. Reviewer me, Wahyuningsih. The date is October 24, 2021. The first is introductions. The purpose of this study was to look at how adjective phrases from Putri novel I Am Number 4 were translated into English. He distinguishes between two types of translations, that is level shift translation and category shift translations. Structure shift, class shift, unit shift, and intrasystem shift are the four types of shifts. The authors undertake research by first classifying the translations of adjective phrases in the novel I Am Number 4 in order to do research. Second, in the novel I Am Number 4, describe the comparable and non-equivalent translations of adjective phrases. In this study, the author reveals that there are four variations belonging to the level of shifts, namely adjectives into verbs, phrases, adjective into adjective phrases, adjective into noun phrases, and adjectives into clauses. The second is research questions or aims. The objective of these studies are to classify the translations shift of adjective phrase and to describe the equivalent and non-equivalent of the translation shift in the novel I Am Number 4. The next is research method. The first is the author using this descriptive qualitative method, and the research object is the novel I Am Number 4 and its translations. So the author collecting the data by the several steps. The first is read the novel. The second, identify the adjective phrases. The third is write the data on paper. The fourth is coding the data, and the last is analyze the data or comparison technique. The next is findings and discussions. So there are the first is the classifications of translation shift, namely level shift of adjective phrase and structure shift of adjective phrase. In this part, there are the first is level shift of adjective phrase. From the data, there are 103 or 99.10% that data belong to level shift translations. The first is adjective phrase is translated into adjective. So there are 20 data or 19.5% English adjective phrase which are translated into adjective. The next is adjective phrases is translated into verb. There are 7 data or 6.67% English adjective phrase which are translated into verb. The next is adjective phrase is translated into adverb phrase. There are 7 data or 6.67% English adjective phrase which are translated into adverb phrase. The next is adjective phrase is translated into verb phrase. There are 20 data or 19.5% English adjective phrase which are translated into verb phrase. The next is adjective phrases and is translated into clause. There are 49 data or 46.67% is English adjective phrase which are translated into clauses. Next, please. The second of the part is structural shift or adjective phrases. The first is adjective phrase is omitted. There are two data or 1.90% English adjective phrase which are translated into clause. The next is the equivalent of in the novel. The first is equivalent translations. There are 103 data or 98.10%. The second is non-equivalent translations. There are two data or 1.90%. Discussion, there are 105 data or English adjective phrase in the finding based on Cuthbert 1965. There are two translations saved in I Am Number 4 novel, level shift and structure shift. On the level shift, there are 5 sub. Adjective phrase is translated into adjective. Adjective phrase is translated into verb. Adjective phrase is translated into adverb phrase. The next is adjective phrase is translated into verb phrase, and adjective phrase is omitted. While on the structure shift only has one shift, adjective phrase is committed. The researchers also found from the novel that 103 data of 105 data are equivalent and the rest are the non-equivalent translations. Next, please. The next is conclusions. There are two sorts of translation shift that occur in this study based on 105 data. There are two types of shifts, level shift and structural shift. The level shift is divided into 5 subcategories. There are 20 data or 19.5% of an adjective phrase is translated into an adjective. 7 data or 6.67% of an adjective phrase is translated into a verb. 7 data or 6.67% of an adjective phrase is translated into an adverb phrase. 20 data or 19.5% of an adjective phrase is translated into a verb phrase. 20 data or 19.5% of an adjective phrase is translated into a verb phrase, and 49 data or 46.67% of an adjective. The structural shift translation has only one sub, which is the omissions of the adjective phrase, which has two data or 1.90%. Next, please. The next is advantages. The first advantages is the reader can know a few tips on how to make a scientific paper. The next is several translation techniques. The last advantages is have references about the novel. The next is disadvantages. There are two disadvantages. The first is hard to understand the data code, and the second is there is no suggestions as the author mentioned in research methods. So that's all about my review article. Back to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you for Sri Wahyuningsih. The next review article will be presented by Suci, Mira, Andani. Suci, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, moderator. So the title of the journal is a study on the student's ability and using preposition of direction from the journal ILT Lectura Jurnal Pendidikan, volume 4, number 2, and pages 70 to 77. The year is 2018, and the author is Herdi and Nelsa Adriana. The viewer Miss Suci, Mira, Andani, and the date is 24 October 2002, 21. Next, please. So for the introduction, a preposition is one of the linguistic elements used to construct a sentence. This component is known as a connective word or function word in English, and it is also an element of speech. A preposition expresses a relationship between two elements, one of which is the prepositional complement, and prepositions are generally put before nouns or pronouns, but their position can vary depending on their function. The preposition phrase is an essential component of English sentences. A preposition indicates that a noun or a noun structure follows it. The preposition plus noun combination is referred to as a preposition phrase. For example, he walked inside the house. For research questions or AM is the purpose of the research was to find out the student's ability in using preposition of direction at the first year students of English Education Department, Faculty of Education and Teachers Training, Lancang Kuning University, Pekanbaru, for academic year 2016 to 2017. For research method as a quantitative study, the study used a survey design according to Criswell 2012. Survey research is procedures in a quantitative research in which investigator administer a survey to a sample or to an entire population of people in order to describe the attitudes, opinions, behavior, or characteristic of population. There are two types of survey designs, one at single moment in time, cross-sectional, and one that spans time, longitudinal. The researcher, on the other hand, will perform the study at the moment in time, cross-sectional. For the academic year 2016 to 2017, this research was done with first-year students from the English Educational Department, Faculty of Educational and Teachers Training, Lancang Kuning University. A test was utilized to collect data on students' abilities in order to determine how they perform. A task or collection of tasks that produces observable behavior from the test taker is referred to as a test. The students were given 25 questions to answer, which were separated into two halves based on question direction. For findings and discussion, number 1, students' ability in using preposition of direction. The comparison of the total score to another score may be seen clearly in the histogram above. According to the plot, the largest frequency is in the 72 score, which has 15 students. Otherwise, the lowest scores are 32 and 70 were obtained by a single student. In additional, the researchers delivers the result of the student's performance after collecting and evaluating the data in the form of a percentage table. Number two, the result of descriptive statistic using SPSS. Based on the cumulative above, it is possible to determine the student's ability to use the prepositions of direction. The average score of 55 responders is 66.47 as shown in the table 4.2 above. Furthermore, by calculating and comparing students' grades, it was discovered that the average of students' grades was 72. This signifies that this score is earned most frequently by students while taking the test. The average is 68. It signifies that the average of all students' scores is in the center of the range. Meanwhile, the differences between the top and lowest scores is 56 with a minimum of 32 and a maximum of 88. Next, please. The next is the percentage of classification of students' ability in using preposition of direction. According to the table above, the student's ability to employ preposition of direction may be described as follows. There are 10 students who can be classified as very excellent since they receive a score at the range of 60 to 100, accounting of approximately 60.60, 18% of the total samples. 16 students or 29.9% were classified as good as a result of receiving a high score. Furthermore, 19 students had score ranging from 60 to 69, classifying them as fire with a grade of C. However, students with grades of D and E had the same proportion. They had the lowest percentage of students who use prepositions of direction. There were 5 students who received scores between 50 and 59 with a percentage of 9.9%, as well as five students who received scores between 49 and 50 with a percent of 9.9% from the total sample in the study. For the percentage of the students' ability in using preposition of direction, percentage of students' ability in using preposition of direction from 55 students at the first year of English Department, Faculty of Education and Teacher Training, Lancang Kuning University, there were 34.55% categories into fire as the biggest number of students level. The lowest percentage is in pure and bad level, which have the same percentage. It is 9 to 9%. For the conclusion, based on the study findings reported in the preceding capture, it can be inferred that most first-year students at Lancang Kuning University's English Education and Department, Faculty of Education and Teacher Training are classed as fire in their ability to use preposition of direction. The average score of students' ability to use prepositions of direction is 66.47. According to the exam result, there are 18.18% of 55 students who are classed as very good. 29.9% who are labeled as good, 40 34.55% who are categorized as fire, and 9.9% who are categorized as poor, and 9.9% who are categorized as terrible. Next, please. For critical review, in my opinion, this article is good but not complete because there is no research question section. The data discussed in this article are complete and described in detail. For advantages, the advantage of this article, in my opinion, is we know that the researcher conducting survey designed to identify whether the students have understood this subject or not. The result of the study showed that the average score of students' ability in using prepositions of direction was 66.47. Disadvantages I found in this article is that the author didn't write down the points of the research objective questions, and the author only wrote in the abstract section. The structure of this article is not well and correctly arranged in accordance with the correct article writing. Thank you.
Thank you for Suci. So the next presenter is Wahyuni. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you, moderator. I will read about review of journal article task. The title is an analysis of adjective clause in the novel Another Peach of My Heart by Jeni Green and its contribution to the teaching of grammar. Journal is Philosophical Journal Bahasa Sastra dan Budaya, Volume 1, Number 2, page 43 until 51. Year 2021, authors Ayu Nurhidayah, reviewer Wahyuni, that October 25, 2021. Introduction. As we know, people use language to express themselves and manipulate objects in their environment. Without language, people will have never been able to have a relation with others. This definition stresses the social function of language and the fact that we use it express to ourselves and to manipulate objects. Adjective clause is a dependent clause that modifies a noun. It describes, identifies, or gives further information about a noun. An adjective clause is also known as a relative clause. The relative pronoun used in an adjective clause can refer to person, thing, place, time, and reason. Adjective clause come in a variety of forms. Breaking down the study into its basic component is essential to learning the form. In this article, the researcher wants to know how adjective clause appear in the novel. By adding adjective clause to our writing is a good way to provide additional detail about the nouns and pronoun in our work. This extra description would enrich our writing and help the reader understand our message more clearly. Research question or aim. The aim of the research was to identify the type of adjective clause in the novel, the dominating adjective clause in the novel, and the contribution of adjective clause to English grammar teaching. The research questions are follow. First, how many kinds of adjective clause are found? Second, what is the dominant adjective clause form? And the last one is what are the contribution of adjective clause? Research method. The researcher use qualitative research method, and also the adjective clause theory of Thomson and Martinet, which defining relative pronoun used in this article. And then the data were taken from Jane Green's novel entitled Another Beach of My Heart. Next, for the finding and discussion, from collected the data, the researcher found that there are 5 kinds of adjective clause found in the novel, namely a person, such as who, whom, whose, and that, and the thing, such as which and that, a time when, a place where, and a reason why. The first finding found by the researcher is that the adjective clause refer to a person using the relative pronoun who, which is the most dominantly used in the novel Jane Green, Another Pitch of My Heart, with a percentage of 43.6%. And second, the adjective clause that refer to a thing by using the pronoun that is also used the most after who, with a percentage of 25.7%. And the third, the adjective clause that refer to a time by using the pronoun when is also widely used after that with a percentage of 7.7%. And fourth, adjective clause that refer to a place using the pronoun where are also found with a percentage of 4.8%. And the last finding found by the researchers, namely the adjective clause that refer to a reason by using the pronoun why is only slightly found in this novel with a percentage of 0.8%. The contribution of the adjective clause is very important. It's aimed to determine a person's ability to master topics such as the meaning, function, type, and use of adjective clause. In this novel, the researchers need to find the concept of adjective clause from Jane Green's novel, Another Pitch of My Heart. And from discussion section, the researcher found that the 413 adjective clause consists of 197 adjective clause referring to a person with percentage uh, 47.7%, and then 161 adjective clause referring to a thing with percentage 39%, and 32 adjective clause referring to a time with percentage 7.7%, and 20 adjective clause referring to a place with 4.8%, and 3 adjective clause referring to a reason with percentage 0.8%. And for the conclusion, the researcher conclude that the research found 413 adjective clause in the Jane Green's novel Another Pitch of My Heart, and the data sample which are found in this research can be used when the teacher delivers the lesson to the student. Adjective clause referring to a person by using relative pronoun who is 50 the most dominant use in the novel. And for critical review, after reading this article, I think this article is good to read because the author of this article explained the introduction, research question or aim, and research method very clearly. However, this article still has shortcomings. such as in the finding section. The author does not provide an explanation of the 5 types of adjective clause contained in the novel, and the author only provides a little explanation in the finding section. And also in the conclusion section, the author only gives a little explanation about the conclusion from the analysis of this article. And from advantages, the advantages of this article is that we as reader can find out about the type of adjective clause in the novel. This article also provides an example of how to analyze how we know the dominant adjective clause used in the novel. And the last advantage of this article is that we as reader can find out the contribution of adjective clause in teaching English grammar. And for disadvantages, because in the critical review section there are several shortcomings, such as the finding and discussion section, so that is make use as the reader less informed about the explanation of the type of adjective clause, and in the conclusion, the author provides too little information about the analysis of this article. I think that's all about my review journal article. Back to moderator.
Thank you, Tri Wahyuni. And the next review article will be read by Hersa Yuria. Hersa, time is yours.
Thank you, moderator. I will continue to read my review of journal article task. The title is about the mastery of adjective clause by the second year senior high school student. Case study SMA Al-Wasiliyah Medan. The journal is Pelita Informatika, volume 9, number 1. The pages 1 until 5. The year it was 2015. Authors Putri Andani. The reviewer is Mira, Hersa Yuria, and the date it was October 22 and 2021. Introduction. This research is focused on the structure, especially in knowing the student ability in using adjective clause without ignoring the other part of basic English skill. Structure is an important part to make the right sentence that follow by English rule. As fact, the usage of English in adjective clause that hold an important part and much related to reading and writing. Adjective clause is considered important for students because adjective clause are used as dependent clause to modify nouns. In other words, adjective clause do what adjective do to nouns. Research question and aims. The first one is to describe the student ability in using adjective clause in English. And then the finding of this study is expected to be useful for English teacher and can face by the student in learning adjective clause. And the last, the finding will also be useful for the student in improving their knowledge, especially in structure concerning with adjective clause. Research method. The method of this research belongs to descriptive qualitative. The data were collected by using tests of adjective clauses. And then finding and discussions. The first one is types of adjective clause. There are introductory words referring to person, who, whom, and whose. For example, this is John, who always goes to the park on weekends. The woman whom he loved left him. And then introductory word referring to a thing.
which and that. For example, there is the house which or that I used to live in. And then introductory words referring to time, when. Example, the data when I was born was June 29, 1983. Next, introductory word referring to time, when. Example, the date when I was born was June 29, 1993. Introductory word referring to place, where. And then introductory word referring to a reason, why. Example, please tell me why you live in. And the second one is reduction of adjective clause. And ing from an ed used instead of a relative pronoun and an active verb either in present or past. And next, the subject pronoun is omitted and the be from of verb is omitted. And then if there is no be from of a verb in the adjective clause, it is sometimes possible to omit the subject pronoun and change the verb to its ing. And then if the adjective clause requires commas, the adjective phrase also requires commas, the subject pronoun and the be from. One should be explained in this case is the mastery of adjective clause is included into the mastery of grammar. The student failure in using adjective clause is caused by lacking of treatment of using the adjective clause in daily life activities, both communication and writing. They concern to the adjective clause only. Conclusion, based on the data obtained, there are 5 types of adjective clause and 5 reduction of adjective clause. After treating out the research, the conclusion can be formulated as follows. The second year's junior high school student of Al-Wasliyah Medan have fair level of mastery in adjective clauses. The student failure in using adjective clause is caused by lacking of treatment of using the adjective clause in daily life activities, both communication and writing. The concern to the adjective clause only if they are having tasks related to it. Using the word in dialogue, speech, conversation, or daily communication will help students to master the adjective clause. Critical review, this article is quite good, but there are something that are difficult to understand. I think the author should explain what kind example of adjective clause that often makes error to student and not only mention the percentage about the error ability. Advantages, it will be useful for the new learners in improving their knowledge, especially in English structure concerning with adjective clause. And the last part is disadvantages. Vocabulary choose lots of mistyping and some of the finding and the discussion not related to the aims. Okay, that's all from me. Back to the moderator.
Thank you, Hersa. And to the next review article will be read by the last presenter, Imraatul Khairati. Rati, times is yours.
Thank you, moderator. I will read my review article. The title is The Equivalence and Shift in the Indonesian Translation of English Adjective Phrase. Journal is Academia Education, Volume 4, number 11, page 109 until 113, years 2014. Authors Mutiara Fitri Dewi and Lia Maulia Indrayani Elvi Citra Resmana. Reviewer me, Imraatul Khairati, date October 25, 2021. Introduction. According to Larson 1998, page 3, translation is simply defined as the process of transferring meaning from a source language to a target language. Larson's definition implies that when translating, translators should keep in mind that they are not simply transferring a message but also reconstructing
meaning in target language. The fundamental goals of translator is to establish a source language text message translation parity in target language text. However, because to the structural and cultural differences between source language and target language, translation cause alterations. The author investigates the equivalent and shift in the Indonesian translation of English adjective phrase. A research question or aims. The aims of this study are investigating and analyzing the equivalence and shift found in Indonesian translation of English adjective phrase in magazine article. For research methods, this article uses a qualitative descriptive. The equivalence and shift in the Indonesian translation of English adjective phrase and are described. The adjective phrase used in this study were obtained from an article in both the English and Indonesian edition of National Geographic, edition March and April 2014. The writer employs Popovich's and Nidal's equivalency approach. The writer used Chatforth's taxonomy of translation changes to analysis. For the finding and discussion, the analysis of equivalence. A textual equivalence. First is source language adjective phrase, subject predicative is translates into target language adjective phrase, subject predicative. Target language adjective phrase masih utuh is translated from source language nearly in text. The degree marker or adverb nearly modifies the English adjective in text. Masih is a degree marker in the target language that modifies the Indonesian adjective utuh. Second is source language adjective phrase. Post modifier of a noun is translation into target language adjective phrase. Post modifier of a noun. So dense modifies as a black hole in the source language, whereas yang begitu padat changes to lubang hitam in the target language. Both phrases serve as post modifier for noun and serve the same purpose in the same context. B. Dynamic equivalence. In Indonesian, the word free and gratis have the same meaning. Without paying anything is the meaning of both of them. If translated literally as bebas, the connotation will be altered and it will sound out of place in an Indonesian setting. B. The analysis of shift. A. Unit shift. Number one, there are two parts of this unit. One, source language adjective phrase is translated into target language word. The phrase very weird is made up of two words. It is an adjective in target language and its translation is aneh when a unit at one rank in source language becomes a word at another rank in target language. This is known as unit shift. For instance, a sentence to a word. Second, source language phrase is translated into target language words or addition of a word in target language adjective phrase. When an adjective phrase consists of two words in source language and three words in target language with a word added in each language, the unit shift happens. In this case, amat sangat berat mean unimaginably heavy in source language and is translated as amat sangat berat in target language. For conclusion, the research sample for this article is that 550 data point. There is 72% equivalency data and 28% shift data in this data. The textual equivalent is the most common 70% equivalency, while the dynamic equivalent is only 2%. This study found only one type of shift, namely class shift. which is divided into two categories: baby phrases that are translated into target language word with 6 data point or 12%, and baby phrase that are translated into BB3 word with 8 data point or 16%. The AP can be used as a subject, predicative, and post modifier of a noun in both English and Indonesian. The equivalency is more prominent in National Geographic magazine. This is than the shift. This is due to the fact that the function in English and Indonesia are comparable. It may be deduced from the study finding that the textual equivalence demonstrates the role of adjective phrase in both English and Indonesian. The shift that occurs on the other hand, demonstrate that the translation achieves a natural translation of the text in target language by introducing linguistic adjustments that do not alter the meaning. Critical review. The author explained the content of the article well. The author is not complicated in explaining the content of the article, and the author used language that is easy to understand, even though in some part the author made mistake in placing punctuation mark and does not pay attention to the placement of paragraphs in the methodology section. Advantages: the reader can learn how to study and analyze the equivalence and shift identified in the Indonesian translation of an English adjective phrase in a magazine article as a result of this investigation. Disadvantages: readers are a little difficult to understand some of the vocabulary in this article. Thank you. Back to the moderator.
Thank you, Farati, and we will continue with the PowerPoint of the gap. So please share screen. Next. For the summary from the article 1 will be read by Jeni Natasya. Jeni, please read this.
Okay, I will read my summary in this article is that the author focused on finding adjective and adverbial clauses in the novel The Secret Garden by Frances Hudson Burnett. The data obtained on the adjective clause in the article is divided into two: relative pronoun as much as 86% and relative adverb 14%, while adverbial clauses are divided into five. The first is the reason is 14, the time is 63, the concision is 2, manner is 19, and the condition is 2%.
And for the next article will be read by Sri Wahyuningsih.
Thank you, moderator, and I will read the summary. This article discusses the adjective phrases found in the novel I Am Number 4. In this article, there is a classification of translation shift, namely adjective phrase level shifts and adjective phrase structure shift. In shifting the level of adjective phrases, there are 5 things that are discussed in this article, namely adjective phrase is translated into adjective phrase is translated into verb, adjective phrase is translated into adverb phrase. Adjective phrase is translated into verb phrase, and adjective phrase is translated into clause. The second is structural shift of adjective phrases. Thank you, moderator.
Thank you, Sri. And for the next article will be read by Suci, Mira, and Andani. Suci, please read this summary.
Okay, thank you, moderator. For the article, an analysis of adjective clauses in the novel, Another Piece of My Heart by Jane Green and its contribution to the teaching of grammar. The summary is this article discusses adjective, which the author focuses on the several types of adjective clauses found in the novel. For beginners, it is very important to understand the adjective clause in order to make sentences that are acceptable. Adjective clauses can also be used by teachers as subjects to make it easier for teachers to find out adjective clauses, classification, and example of each active clause.
Okay, next will be read by Hersa Yuria. Oh, sorry, I mean Wahyuni.
Okay, I will read the summary. This article discusses the student ability to form English noun phrase and the factor that contribute in inaccuracy in this area. Descriptive design is used in this investigation. The research sample consists of 40 English department 5th semester students. The exam is used to collect the study data. Descriptive statistics were used to analyze the data. The findings show that students apply 32 noun-phrase forming patterns, which are include inaccuracy and construction inaccuracy according to the statistical data. Identifiers, adjective, noun modifiers, quantifiers, prepositional phrase, participle clause, utilizing conjunction, and indefinite clause are all examples of noun phrase pattern. Thank you.
Thank you, Titi. The next article, please. Okay, I will continue to read the article 6. The title is The Mastery of Adjective Clauses by the second year senior high school students. Case study SMA Al-Wasliyah Medan. The summary, in this article, there are 5 types of adjective clause and 4 reduction of adjective clause. After treating out the research, the conclusion can be formulated as follows. The second year senior high school students of Al-Wasliyah Medan have fair level of mastery in adjective clauses. The students' failure in using adjective clauses is caused by lacking of treatment of using the adjective clause in daily life activities, both communication and writing. They concern to the adjective clause only if they are having tests related to it. Using the words in dialogue, speech, conversation, or daily communication will help students to master the adjective clauses. Next slide, please. Article 7, the title is the equivalence and shift in the Indonesian translation of English adjective phrases. The summary, the research sample for this article is 50 data points. There is 72% equivalency data and 28% safe data in this data. The textual equivalent is the most common, 70% equivalency, while the dynamic equivalent is only 2%. This study found only one type of seed, namely classive, which is divided into two categories. BB phrases that are translated into target language word with 6 data points are 12%, and BB phrases that are translated into BB3 words with 8 data points or 16%. It may be deduced from the study's findings that textual equivalence demonstrates the role of adjective phrases in both English and Indonesian. The shift that occurs, on the other hand, demonstrates that the translator achieved a natural translation of the text in target language by introducing linguistic adjustments that do not alter the meaning. And the last is the gap. The following gap of 7 articles. The first is each article only focus at adjective, prepositional phrase, and clause. Meanwhile, adverbial phrases is not discussed in the 7 articles. The second is the research's object only includes novel, textbook, magazine article, although there are other study objects that possible to be studied: speech, dialogue on drama, song, comics, and also advertisement. And for the possible research, we found in the 7. First, an analysis adjective and adverbial clauses on the album Adele. Second, an analysis of adjective clause in poetry Never Ending Rain by Christy Maxim. The third is an analysis of adjective phrases in drama of Romeo and Juliet. And the fourth, an analysis of adjective clause in song Money by Lisa Blackpink. 5, an analysis of adjective clause on poetry Maybe by Han Kanifa. The 6th, an analysis of adjective clause in the speech Maudia Yunda Graduations. And the last is an analysis of adverbial phrase in comic Love is an Illusion. I think that's enough for our presentation today. If there are a lot of mistakes, please forgive us. And if you have comments, suggestions, and also questions, you can feel free to ask in the discussion forum on e-learning. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.